The Vinyl Man on YouTube.
Hi everyone, welcome to the Sunday live stream. Got some really good guests on this evening for everybody. So I'll just go around the panel real quick. This week's theme is going to be record fair experience. So if you've been to a record fair, how you found it in the past or how you find it these days, that kind of thing. So I'll just go around the panel real quick. I'll introduce everybody. We've got Joe, Racer Joe from Racer Records here from Canada. Thanks, Joe, for joining us this evening, mate.
Thanks very much for having me.
We've got David Atkinson as well from England. So good to have David on. He's been on a few times with me. Always fun to have him on. And I thought it'd be good opportunity for David to be on, actually, because, well, I'll let David explain what's going on in a moment. But I'll go to you first, Joe. Record fairs. Now, obviously, do you want to explain kind of, you're the shop and at the moment and how you went from record fairs to where you are today?
Sure. I think the first one that I put on, which is also the first one that I attended 10 years, 12 years ago now, something along the lines of that. For me, it was much like everyone else where you build a bit of a collection. And I know I've watched David's most recent video and he explains his process. For me, it was a matter of I had bought a couple of big collections. So I kept the things that I wanted for myself. And then there was stuff that I just didn't want for myself. And instead of trying to sell it individually, which is just such a pain in the ass, and or, you sell it as a bulk, and that it was like, well, you know what, there's these things I'm sure I've seen before. And so I started to check things out a little bit and just basically found a few other guys. The first one was kind of small. There was, I think, maybe 6 of us or so. And just put it together because I had things I wanted in my collection. Then I had these other 1,000 albums or whatever it was that I had that just didn't appeal to me, or duplicates of things that I already had. And so found the guys, found the venue, paid the rent for the venue, and charged the guys accordingly. I didn't overcharge anybody. It was just a matter of, it cost us $500 Canadian. So there was 6 of us. We each kicked in $100. We paid for the room, and away we go. And when we started to promote, and really most of it was Facebook and YouTubes and things like that. Not so much YouTube back in the day. I didn't utilize it as much at that point. It was more of a Facebook. But then I got on. I had a couple of ins with some radio hosts and things like that. So I got in on that, and it was fairly big 10 years ago. It's gotten much, much bigger in the last 10 years, I think. So. It was still, there was not a large community. There was a fairly large community, but it was just a matter of getting the word out there. It was kind of, if you build it, they will come. We put it out and we put a bunch of tables up. We put our records out, and it was super busy for the very first one. And then it just continued after that. So.
And then the process going to getting a record shop, was that kind of, you're building up your collection so much here at this point, it's kind of like, well, I may as well open a record shop then.
Yeah, it was a little bit of that for sure. Again, I would go and I would buy personally buy collections, and things would make their way into my bins. And then there'd be things that would go into the for sale bins. At one point, I sold like 3,000 to one guy just because I had somewhat stopped doing the pop-ups or whatever. So, I just sold here's $3,000-ish or whatever worth of records.
Wow.
And then eventually, so I used to actually work for a living. And not to say that I don't now, but where I used to work is an audio video shop. We would do custom installs. We would sell 2-channel equipment. We'd sell, home theaters, all of that. I retired from that a few years ago, and then kind of went and went out on my own for a little bit and just started doing some things, and then went back to start just answering phones and that while guys were gone on vacation. And there was a large collection. I knew that was coming up. I still had 4 or 5 bins of stuff that I would take to pop-ups. So I just, off the cuff said to the gentleman that owns the place, hey, why don't we buy this collection and put a little shop here in the store? And he went, okay. And then it went from there. And then a year later, after processing and getting everything ready and buying the bins and doing all the rest of it, maybe not a year, but about 8 months or whatever, the shop opened up. So really, it's just a permanent place to do what, David and the rest of us have done on a pop-up basis. It just became a permanent place. I was lucky I was able to find a place that wanted to do it. So it was kind of nice. So it's just an extension of doing the pop-ups, or whatever you want to call them, the vinyl fairs, or whatever the not correct word is, whatever the terminology someone wants to use. It just became that, but I had a more permanent place to do it. So,
and obviously
can I just ask, what's the footfall like now that you've got a permanent place?
It's good. Because there's still pop-ups a lot as well, and we try and work with them as well, because it's a matter of, I really do think that it's a high tide floats all boats. So when they're having a pop-up sale, it's still competition somewhat for the store, because people are going to go spend their money there instead of coming and spending it at the store. But again, it's just very good because the location where they do the pop-ups is actually fairly close to the store. So I just always call us the off-site table for the pop-up shops. And we promote them and they promote us. And it's a good, and I think you found too, that first one, based on watching your video, you find that there's a good family, a good group of guys. Now there's some not good guys that are involved in it as well. And that will come later. Maybe we'll talk about that. But I've made very good friends from that very first one that I put on 10, 12 years ago, that I still see on a regular basis, that I buy stuff from, that they buy stuff from me, vice versa. So, the foot traffic is good. It's not crazy busy. I don't know. And I've said this before, live and off camera or whatever. I don't know that the shop could sustain itself without being within the shop that it's already in, because the lights are on and there is a much bigger business that it's a part of. If a person was to try and do it on their own, possibly, but you'd have to be pretty tight with your rent. You might not pay yourself a whole bunch, and that would be okay. Like if I was to do it now as a somewhat retired guy, if I could find a spot and all it paid for was the rent and the lights coming on, I'd still enjoy it, because I love the process of going through the albums and pricing and finding which version it is and all of that. I love all that process. Others find that tedious. I find that fun. I even like cleaning them. I like that aspect of it as well. So there's nothing better than picking up a nice big collection of even 2,000 or 3,000 albums and then going through them. And what was cool about the last one, I really had no idea. I had a pretty good idea of what this person had, so I didn't look through their bins. We agreed on a price and I just took them out of the bins and put them in the boxes. So for me, it was all a nice surprise. It was like Christmas every day for about a month. But that's the long version. I don't know if you wanted the long version of the answer.
Well, it just reminds me of a conversation I had last week with somebody who runs a record store over here in the UK, and he was saying he was in this pop-up type arrangement, I think, as well initially. And if I remember the story right, I mean, the basic gist of it is that he found that the store within a store kind of thing worked from a cost point of view, but up to a point, because he was eventually leaned on to be open, let's call it 6 days a week.
Sure.
And early on in this endeavor, what he was trying to do is to take some time out to go and search for collections and inspect and collect collections. And while he was doing that, the store would be closed. So he ended up, he was lamenting the fact that he had to employ somebody to man the store. And I got the impression in talking to him for a short while that it kind of took a little bit of the enjoyment out of it.
Sure. Like I said, I'm super lucky, because the one that I run, again, the lights are already on in the building, the heat's already on in the building, and there is not a completely different business, but there is a bigger, larger business that actually pays the bills, because you can't pay the bills off of the vinyl sales. No. We make money and it brings people in the door. And that was a big part of it for us as well. Now it was a nice mix, because obviously we want people to come in for their turntables and their styluses and their cartridges and their speakers and all of that. So it brought new people into the store. They bought some records as well. And then vice versa. It brought people that were already shopping at the store. Hey, you guys have records now and things like that. So it made a really nice, it's been a nice combination. The other thing that I thought of, which would have worked, and I tossed it around a little bit, and then this opportunity came up, is if there's enough guys, if there's say 2 or 3 guys, is to find a location, and as long as you can keep everybody's collection separate, is to do it as, you know, do a pop-up but have it open on a more regular basis, where if you have 2 or 3 guys, but then so someone brings my stuff up to the counter, whoever it is that's working, whether that's me or you, or let's say Chris is with us, each knowing the other guy's tag. So, you know, comes and says, okay, this goes into Joe's coffers, or this goes into David's coffers. And I think that might be okay too, because there's guys where they're only doing the pop-up. So stuff is really kind of sitting around for, now it depends. Here in town, there's really only 2. Dave, you've got some opportunity to go to one you just went to, but you've got 2 or 3 more lined up. There isn't always that many where we are. Again, back to our earlier conversation off camera of the amount of travel that you have to do. You could go and you could travel 9 hours and go to the Calgary show, and 5 hours, 6 hours go to the Winnipeg show. But that was the other thing that I tossed around.
Yeah. Before I go to David, I want to promote Joe's shop channel. Joe, do you want to tell everybody your shop channel? Because I really enjoy, because it takes you behind the scenes, David, of actually the cleaning process, the buying process. I bought like 3,000 like records. I've got to kind of get through these now, and what's going to go out and what are you going to keep yourself.
There haven't been that many, honestly. I know nobody believes me when I say that, but there haven't been that many. I have enough already. There's a couple that have maybe made their way home for me to test. But
so is it on a vinyl, isn't it? Is that correct?
Yeah, it's on a vinyl and it's on AV. So if you were to type in into YouTube just on AV, then you would be able to find it, and or on a vinyl. There's kind of 2 that'll get you there. So
I'll put a link. I'll put a link later on in the description.
Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, the at Racer Records, that's my personal one, which is, you know, when I'm doing stuff like this.
And if you're looking for a good quiz, easy man.
There's that too. Yeah.
David. So obviously you've done some videos about your purging stuff, because you've got doubles or trebles of that collection. It's kind of like it's just holding dust at this point, which you could probably reinvest into new records you want, or stuff that you may want in the future. How's that purge gone for you? And my second part of the question is, how did you find it selling, being on the other side of the counter compared to going to a record fair?
Well, there's a lot. I mean, you're right. There is a video that I did put up, which if anybody wants to watch that to get the full analysis, if you like, then please do. But I think, stepping back, I'm one of these people who I didn't get rid of my vinyl when CDs came along, and let's just say everybody else did. And the reason why I didn't is because I had enough space in the house I was living in to accommodate vinyl and CDs, and there were no children around. So I was able to build up a big library of vinyl and CDs. And then what happened was, and also I continued to buy, because if people were getting rid of their collections, I was going to charity shops or thrift stores, as you say in North America, and finding tremendous bargains, which of course is not the story in the 2020s. And so I continued to add to the collection. Now you overlay that my working life is that I was in corporate. I worked for a number of big organizations, or varying size organizations, but sizable organizations. And there came a point in time where I decided to stop working for corporate and then go out on my own. And I went out on my own as a management consultant, because I'm a specialist in negotiation and in procurement and sales. And I began working from home doing all my preparation work from home, and then spending probably on average, probably no more than 5 or 6 days a month at a client's premises, which could be literally, I'll say anywhere except South America. So, but a lot of the time I was at home, and so I set up a home office and then put a hi-fi in there. And a lot of the work I was doing, I was able to listen to music while I was doing my work. So every time I went out and I wanted another copy of Dire Straits' Love Over Gold, and I found a good one, I say, oh, what the hell with it? I'll just buy it and stick it in the office. And that just went on for about 15 years. And then around about, I think it's probably the turn of the year. I don't think it was a great epiphany or a great New Year's resolution. I just began to feel, I think especially last year, a little bit the year before, but last year I met a lot of people in the vinyl community and have built up some good friendships. And with a bit of VCLT, you know, the gifting to people I did last year, I kind of, it was a good feeling to be able to let go some of the vinyl and put it in the hands of people who would appreciate it more than I did. Because I've, you know, in here, I've got the best copy I've got is in this room. You know, I've got other parts of the house where the duplicates are. And so I decided I was going to say, what if I go to a record shop and say, I've got 50 LPs, what will you give me? Well, they'll probably give me some store credit. And I didn't really want to just get like 20 cents on the dollar kind of thing. I wanted to, some of the stuff I've got is worth decent money. It's always been in good condition and so on. So I thought, how do I get it in the hands of people who would really appreciate it? And so I got rid of the idea of selling it in bulk. But I wasn't going to go so far that I was going to sell person to person, because my purge target is about 2,000 LPs in the classic rock, maybe a little bit of jazz vein or veins. But I've also got about another 2,000 or 3,000 classical music LPs, which is a whole other story, because Record Fair, not normally attended by people who are looking for classical records. It's very specialist genre. And so I realized there was a substantial number of records out there to be kind of let go. And I thought, well, wouldn't it be a good idea to explore the notion of having a table at a record fair and selling it on, or selling at least some of it on. So I explored that, and then I've made 3 bookings so far, one of which is completed, which was last weekend. We can talk in more detail about the specifics around that when the time comes. But I've got 2 more, and the whole idea is to kind of get rid of the low value stuff, because if people are curious, just like I've been, that looks interesting, £2, I'll grab it, or I'll grab 2 or 3 of those. What the hell, I'll try it. So there's plenty of those, but there's also others that are in, well sought after records, not necessarily great rarities, because maybe record fairs aren't where you sell those either. But if you show up at a record fair and you want a copy of, say, Fleetwood Mac's Rumours in really good condition, and it might not be an OG, it might be something that was released in 1980 or 85. And you can get it for like £5 or £10. People think that's a really good deal, and they go home absolutely thrilled. So I've got that's the balance I've got with what I'm selling. And I decided I'm really going to take it seriously. So I decided to buy some boxes for storage, transport, and display. I haven't gone yet non-cash, so I've only done one. It's cash only.
Cash is king.
And I only had one person who had some difficulty, and that was resolved with the help of the fair organizers. So that worked brilliantly well. There was no bother there. So I bought the boxes. I cut up some of my Amazon delivery cartons to draw up some signs, price labels. I bought some plastic sleeves with stickers for prices. I didn't want to put the stickers directly onto the vinyl, the album cover, So I bought plastic sleeves. Yeah. Because you're never quite sure whether the glue is going to be easy peel or not. And because, you know, you are buying these from Amazon or something like that. And what I did, anything I was going to put a price on of £3 or more, which could be, you know, up to £50 or maybe £100 and one or two examples. If it wasn't already sealed, if it wasn't already sealed, I would inspect the record. If for some reason there was some dust or a finger mark, I'd clean the record. If there was a mark on it, I would check whether it was an audible or not. So I've got one record, I think it's a Supertramp album, which somebody picked up and inspected last weekend and decided not to go for it because there were a few little marks on it. But I mean, it's completely fair. I would be a bit reluctant to buy that as well. But I played it and it's not audible. So there's nothing. So it was just one of these surface marks at the very top. It's not deep in the groove, so you don't hear anything. So I did all of that and kind of sealed it up. So they've all got plastic sleeves and labels on it. And then I say to people when they come to my table, open up the plastic. It's resealable. Take the record out, inspect it. I do exactly the same. So that's kind of how it's kind of worked out. Kind of getting started. And of course, a little bit about why I decided that the time has come to create more space in the house for other things.
I'm going to take the internet behind the curtain slightly here. Me and David have been in conversation the last couple of months. And he started his videos with a purge. And I found myself sending messages to David going, oh, I love that. I love that. I love that. I love that. And we went to the Bristol Record Fair. Was it a month ago, Dave? I think
I think it was 7th of February. So yeah, a month ago.
Yeah. And I've got to be honest, I loved the way that I did that because I know how David, like if I bought off Joe, I know he's going to look after that record. It's going to be cleaned properly. There's not going to be any issues. It's not going to be warped. Because I know that if David sells me a record, it's going to be warped. He knows he's going to hear off me within.
Oh, yeah.
As soon as I get home.
Yeah, of course.
So I'd rather buy off him, if that makes sense. So he's not selling it to the public. He's selling it to me, and I'm using it as a vinyl, collector in the vinyl community itself, which I really appreciated. And some of the albums I've bought off you, that Jesse Malin, I sent him a message the other day going, have you got any more? He was like, not for sale.
Nope.
So
yeah, but to be fair, Chris, you only bought like half a dozen. So it's not like you punched a big hole in the 2,000 I'm looking to get rid of. So it wasn't. It wasn't. Certainly from my point of view, I didn't see you as a customer. I saw you as a friend, and I'm going to do you a deal. Because you don't want to take the records off me for free. You said that.
Yeah, yeah.
Although I've got a bag with a few in there, which you might want to have. But generally speaking, I didn't want to rip you off. You certainly didn't want to rip me off. And we came to an understanding is that, look, rather than me put them in the bins at a record fair, you have them and cross my palm with a few pound notes and I'll be happy.
Well, I did say to you at the time, if you remember, I said, look, I don't want to take the piss. I'd rather buy these albums off you because I'm not that kind of person. Like Joe knows what I'm like. I'm pretty straight as they come. If I've got an issue, I will tell you, look, I'm not taking the piss here, but how much are you looking for that? Like we were talking the Pete Doherty album.
Yes, we were.
That's going to cost you that much. And I went, you sell it, mate.
Yeah. Well, I didn't know how much it was worth, did I?
Yeah.
So I just say, you saw it in one of the videos where I was thinking, this is the sort of stuff I'm going to get rid of. I did a series of videos, and that album kind of was briefly shown and put away, and you said you'd be interested in it. And I don't know what triggered it, whether you mentioned it or whether it was just a matter of routine. I was checking Discogs, and then I thought, geez, this is an expensive record.
Yeah.
And then you messaged me afterwards and said the higher price you'd seen is off the scale stupid. So, you weren't going to get it for a tenner. But the thing is, I'm not sure if you know, I've got 2 copies, and one that's sealed and one that isn't sealed. And if I was to get the prices that you mentioned at a fair or from a private buyer, you know, that would pay for loads and loads of record fairs.
Well, the one I saw on Amazon was a used one, and it was I'll just put it perspective. It was over £500 for a used. So, Joe, I don't know if you know Pete Doherty's from the Libertines.
No, I don't.
Yeah, he's
well, it's £600 to you, the Joe.
Yeah.
You know, I had this conversation a couple of times in the last little while because we've got some high-priced albums at the shop. And when I say high-priced, like $300, $400, $500 albums at the shop. So I tried to explain to a couple of people, why the hell is that worth that? And then I tried to explain it to them. And the way that we look at it, or the way that I look at it, is yes, it's a big number, but at least it's a fair number, right?
Yes.
Because there's some big, crazy, insane numbers out there that people are just throwing on things for no other reason than they went onto Discogs and they saw that one person insanely paid X amount of dollars for that album. So they think, well, that's what that's got to be worth. They don't do the whole math thing. They don't really know that, 20 of them sold for this, one sold for that. So you have to really look at the whole thing. But so with albums, there are big numbers, and there are big numbers that are fair numbers. And I think that's a completely different thing. Again, fair market value numbers. And you know, David, you can take some $300, $400, $500, $200, £300 albums to a fair. They're going to be few and far between that are going to get sold, but maybe the guy that sees those knows the guy that will pay that's not at that sale. That is just that private buyer. So sometimes you have to take those high-end ones, display them a little bit, knowing they're not going to sell the day of the sale, but that you're going to find the right person maybe down the line that's going to buy it. So
I've been in that situation, Joe, where my mate Johnny, I've gone to a record fair. He can't make it because he's working. I'm like, they've got the first pressing of kind of the Velvet Underground here. They want £400. Where are you? Like, and in the end, I think I got him down to £300, and he was like, please get that. I need that.
Yeah.
So as soon as I saw him, then he gave me the money for it. Kind of that situation. Now, I'll talk about my situation when it comes to record fairs. So it's kind of up and down for me. Really.
Okay,
So
I just want to compartmentalize my contribution in this. I've just been talking about selling at record fairs, so there's another whole other story when it comes to buying at record fairs. So maybe we'll come on to that as well. But anyway, over to you, Chris. So
my side is quite positive in a way, but you get the negatives. Obviously, it's part and parcel of the record fairs. Let's be perfectly honest. I don't know if it's different in Canada and America, but I'm just going to say my experience and what has been like for me. I've gone to record fairs where people they're selling have recognized me, not from YouTube. I'm just emphasizing that point because nobody does, apart when I'm in Tembe. The local celebrity that everyone's a kick in the head. But I find, especially the smaller chapels, halls in Britain, the kind of smaller venues, if they know you and you bought off them before, they'll give you a bit of a discount because they know, Chris likes Joe Bonamassa, and he's going to want these 2 new albums that he's brought out, the live album and something else. So they know then, okay, this would cost £40. I'll do it for like £33. A deal? I'm like, yeah, he's winning because he's getting rid of them. And obviously I'm buying them because I want them. I want to talk about the Bristol Record Fair real quick here. I thought it was overpriced. There was some good deals I picked up. I picked up the Embrace album, which was a tenner. The Taylor Hawkins band I picked up. I was like £20. I've never seen The Wild. So I was more prepared to pay more for that because I love the Foo Fighters and Taylor Hawkins because I went to the Taylor Hawkins tribute and they played there. But overall, I going to the Bristol Record Fair was a bit overwhelming. We've discussed this on your video, my video, people I've spoken to. I definitely go back. with a better open mind of what to expect to those kind of fairs. But I find overall it could be a bit overpriced. I think people are asking too much. I think a lot of people get on Discogs and look at that price and think, oh, I can charge that. Where you're finding, David, you want to get rid of this stuff. So did you find like, or maybe if I drop the price slightly on this one, I can get rid of more stuff?
I just had a guiding principle of the whole thing is that I was going to use Discogs. If the album was sealed, I was going to go towards the higher end, somewhere between the median and the high price. It was a genuinely sealed and well sought after album. I'd price it accordingly. But if it was a bog standard big seller back in the day, but I've got an excellent copy condition, I'd go to the median price and then go lower because I want to price it to sell. Because a lot of people, a lot of the traders at the record fair, I found, and Joe, you might attest to this, there is merit in having a really good inventory of records. And if you don't sell them this week, then they're available to view and sell. And as you were suggesting, somebody else might recommend the store or the stand to somebody else. So I was completely comfortable about bringing the stuff home because I'm not in a hurry to sell stuff. But I wasn't going to price it stupidly because the game is not to maximize my financial return. The game here is to let good albums go, hopefully to good people who will really appreciate them. Because if I sell a Fleetwood Mac album for I'm using an example again for say £10, the chances are I probably paid £3 for it 20 years ago. So I'm in the black anyway. So I'm not sitting there thinking I bought it for £3. It's now worth £50. I've got to get £50. That's not the way I'm thinking. I just want it to go to somebody who will really, really appreciate it and at a price that I feel as though is fair.
Cool.
Yeah. And that's the thing. I mean, I've tried to do that exactly the same way, whether I was doing it at the pop-up sales or the whatever you want to call them, or doing it in the store. I still do it in the store. Again, knowing the fact that we don't have as much overhead as a person that has just the shop doing that. But you nailed it. I would much rather have it in the hands or the ears of someone who wants to listen to that album than sitting in my bin and maybe get another $5 or, $10 out of it. Right. And I think you really nailed it as well. And I tell people this all the time. I know what I paid for it, right? Have a pretty good idea. It's a little different in your respect because, well, it's not. There was albums you were buying all along the line, right? And then again, there's collections that I know that I bought at $1 a piece just because that's what the person wanted for them, right? So I know what I paid for them. So for me, it was always I need to make a little bit just to buy some more records. It was just feeding the habit. That's all that it was for the shop, for the sales. Pardon me. So again, I would price them somewhat accordingly to fair market value. But if someone goes, "Would you take?" I mean, I don't know if there was ever a time where I didn't take what they offered me. And the other thing too, that most of the time, if someone bought 2 or 3. They had already decided they were comfortable paying what I had marked on there, but I'd still give them a discount anyway. I'd say, well, you're buying 3, so we'll take a couple bucks off each of these. So here's that. So it really, I don't know if I ever. I mean, I know I sold some, especially at the pop-ups for what I had marked on them. But most of the time, if you've got a nice selection and you've got decent pricing, people are going to pick up a bunch. So again, it just makes them feel good because in the end, it's just about the person wanting the music and feeling good in the end. Sorry, Chris, go ahead.
I don't want to end this conversation, but I really need to go to the chat because it's going a bit nuts.
Can I just say one thing just to pick up on Joe's comment? When I buy records, just as Joe suggested, I will look at the ticket price and I will make a judgment. Is that a fair price? I never go to the counter and say, "Will you give me a discount?"
No,
Let me just finish the point. My favorite record shop of the last 10, 15 years is no longer there because the guys moved a couple hundred miles north. I would go in there and I would buy records, and I'd put £100 worth of records on the thing. I was happy to pay £100, and the owner Chris would say 80 quid, £80.
Yeah.
And you know what? Every time I left that shop, I thought I got a good deal. I got, the guy wanted me to go back, and it was really nice to see him again when I went back a month later, when he's got some new stock. And I just kind of know that he's going to do a bit of a deal. But I used to be a professional negotiator for 20, 30 years. And records, when you're buying 1, 2, 3, 5, 10 records, this is not, generally speaking, big ticket transactions.
Correct.
This is, so I don't negotiate over buying records. If someone offers me a discount, that's in the credit column, and I will go back to that shop as I've just suggested. When I did the record fair, I didn't offer any discounts because I priced them fairly. There was about 3 people asked for a discount, and I had a bit of fun with them, and that was fine. There was 2 of them were record shop owners for certain. And then, and it was and I said in my video, it's their game to try and negotiate some sort of a discount. And I just played along with it. But if it really, one guy did push a little bit too. I like to think he had the wrong tone. And so I just held firm, and I was polite, and I said, well, that's the way it is. And
was he from Sunderland?
That is a good, but when you talk about Bristol, it was, I think, priced for the tourists. I think for the walk tourists in Bristol, the youngsters who will pay top dollar, because they weren't around when you could buy them at charity shops for £3. Anyway, sorry, Chris, that was a long monologue.
That's fine, mate. That's fine. That's fine. I did find it very overpriced though, and even like I was lucky the albums I picked up, because I love Embrace and obviously Taylor Hawkins. But some of the stuff they made, I was just like, you're not going to get that. Like, this is insane. Anyway, let's go to the chat, because they've been queuing up here. So we've got Daryl, Northern Vinyl guy. Hi, gentlemen. Hey, mate, how's it going? You're okay? Nice to see you, Daryl.
North.
Yes, that's as north as you can get with the polar bears.
Yeah.
So we've got Cam, the Vinyl Narrative. Evening, gents. Sorry I couldn't join you all tonight. The pains of living in a village. Cam, all I'm going to say to you is send me a message. I will sign you up to the best broadband possible. Right. Okay. We got Brian from Embryonic Robot. Good afternoon.
Oh, if I'd known, I would have worn a plain t-shirt.
Well, yeah. So we've also got Adrian here as well. Hey, Chris, David, and Joe. How's it going, mate? Hope you are well. Before I get to Daryl's question, let's have a quick look. Okay, so he's saying here, do you guys think that there will be a mass stoppage of vinyl purchases coming up like the CD days, in which a drop in prices will happen again at charity shops and record fairs? I can't see it happening, personally. What are you guys' thoughts on this? Joe, do you want to go first on this one, being from Canada?
Sure. I don't foresee it in the near future. I know that every once in a while, someone will throw their arms or their hands up in the air and go, this is all done. It's all finished. We're not going to have this anymore. But I really don't see that, because they've been saying that for 5 to 7 years. It's done. Nobody cares anymore. The numbers aren't huge. They're not making 1 million records at one point. They're not pressing like they used to, but they're pressing into the tens of thousands and that. I think there's enough of the next generation has caught on, because that's what it always comes down to, is the next generation. There's a lot of us, I say us old guys, meaning me specifically, that have our records that we had and we love. And then there's the 30, 40-year-olds, but there are some teenagers and there are some 20-somethings that are into it for the music, that are into it for the artwork. Like, the artwork is a thing. I know, we whether love or hate Taylor Swift, she has sold a lot of albums, and a lot of those albums have never got played. But a lot of those albums have sold, and she's opened up record plants for pressing for other albums and things like that. So I don't think it's going to go away. I don't know that it's going to. I don't see the prices going up much more. I'm not sure if they might not come down a little bit, but I don't see it going away.
David, from your perspective.
Yeah, I think there was a point in time when I was thinking that once us, I'm speaking for Joe here.
Yeah, that's fair.
Of course, me too. Once us old guys die out, I used to think that the desire to hold physical format records or even CDs that would disappear. But people get excited about the revival of vinyl, and they forget. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that, of course, but there's a certain degree of amnesia about or misunderstanding about. This is still a niche hobby.
Sure.
And these niche hobbies can last for decades and decades as long as this younger generation see value in participating in this niche activity. And I think what will happen is that with physical media like records, which are kind of perishable, if you don't really look after them, they eventually degrade, the covers become unattractive. And so I think that the volume of high quality vinyl will get smaller, the ones that people will pay for. We might be talking 20, 30 years down the line, but what's left will be of great appeal, I think, to those niche buyers. So I think it's got many years left in it.
Cool.
I think the other thing too is that, and maybe David, you can attest to this as well, people are not necessarily looking for the Beatles and the Stones and the Who and the Zeppelins. Well, Zeppelin they are, because that's still pulling teeth. But as much as, because I think those that were looking for those have found them now, for the most part. I know I have a few more Beatles that sit in the bins than they used to 6 years ago, as an example. I just don't know exactly what that next wave will be of what the next generation is looking for. I know 80s in the shop is fairly big, and that's and it's nice because it's kind of run of the mill, because there are a whole bunch of Cyndi Lauper, Madonna, George Michael. There were a lot of those sold, and they're not that far gone that they're not well taken care of. It was kind of tough to find some old Beatles and Stones records a little bit more. So it's that next wave of what people are looking for. And if I could have a whole store of 80s hair metal of the Poisons and the Motley Crues and that, I would, I'd be moving away and not selling records anymore, because that is always being well sought after. And then there's the 90s stuff. So it's a matter of the next it's the next genre or the next group of artists that people are looking for, and I think that will continue as well. So
yeah,
okay, I'll go on to the cheers, guys, for that one. We'll go on to the next question here. This is from Cam, the Vinyl Narrative. This is directly for David. I hate using this word, jazz. Jazz records included in your purge, David. I know a man who might be interested.
Yeah, well, let me just say, Cam, just to be clear, jazz is not the genre I doubled up on in the way that I did for a lot of the other stuff. So I don't have more than a handful of duplicates.
Good.
So that, and the problem I have with jazz, because my tastes are quite eclectic, quite broad, but when it comes to jazz, it's not that deep. So I think there's almost a lifetime of listening to my jazz collection before I get to the point where I'm really clear about ones I never want to let go and ones that I can live without. So sorry, Cam.
Do you know that jazz records sell the most in November? Do you know that's a fact?
No, I didn't know that.
Do you know why that is?
Go on then.
It's because they chuck them on bonfire night. Right.
You're hilarious.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'm here all week. Northern Vinyl guy, Daryl. Time for me to go to a record fair and sell some Glass Tigers 45 for $750 Canadian. Yeah, I can imagine, mate. Yeah. He's a huge Glass Tiger fan. Let me just scroll down real quick. The The Vinyl Voyage. Here we go. Evening, gentlemen.
Oh, that's
Yes.
an elite? That's one of the elite, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Mm.
One of my favorite.
Hello,
people,
Jack.
Hiya, Jack. One of my favorite people on YouTube is here. And David, if you haven't watched his channel, please watch his channel. He's hilarious. It's
Who's that?
Mr. Mark Morris. He's
yeah,
amazing. I love Mark. When I purchase records, the counter person usually looks at me and says, like, for you, we will require an extra $20.
Yeah, that's right. That's like when Sheldon was selling all the cats off on, I don't know if you guys watch Big Bang Theory. Here's your cat and here's your $20. He was selling his cats and giving extra money away.
Yeah.
So
Richard from Richard's Vinyl Tappers. Hey, Richard's going, mate. Hi, all. Busy chat room. Yes, it is. I'm trying to go through all the chats here. Back to Cam again. Bristol was overpriced on some sellers, and some of them knew it. They did, mate, because I was behind Cam and he was trying to bargain with the person going, that's far too expensive. What's going on with this record? Few sellers, especially if you bought a bundle from, sorry. Yeah, I found that. Like, I was standing behind people and they were trying to bargain with people, and I was like, there's no point. Just move on to the next seller because they're not interested in doing anything.
Oh, the trick as a buyer, of course, is always be prepared to walk away. You don't have
got
to
to sometimes,
Dave.
This
time.
You've got to sometimes, mate. You've got to.
There's not. I think what I've learned over the years is that even though I've got albums in this collection that I absolutely love and I would never get rid of as long as I've got a record player, when I have such a huge amount of music, I don't really need any more. I want some more, but I'm prepared to walk away if it doesn't make sense to me. And I just do not want to get emotionally attached to an album I've got in my hand in a record shop at a record fair, because what's the point? It doesn't make sense to me.
I'm just, because there's a few people making comments here, so I'm going to go to Spin the Black Circle here, one of our good friends, David. Hi,
Never heard of him. Never heard of him.
I'm trying to get him on a live stream, but we'll see in the future. Hi, fleeting drop into the live stream during a busy night. Interesting topic, Chris. I see too much traction for the vinyl to cliff edge on the near term, certainly over the next 5 years. I'm going to play it by here because they said the CD was going to go nuts, and I'm still not interested, to be honest. I've done the CD thing, and I still prefer the vinyl. I just like the sound of the vinyl, the picking it up, the gatefold, looking at it, reading the lyrics. I find if you buy a CD, you need glasses.
Can I just say I've never bought records as an investment.
No.
I buy records to enjoy. And if one day I make a little bit of money back on that, that's a bonus that until very recently I'd never even thought of.
No.
So,
Daryl's making a good comment here, and I don't usually highlight people twice, but 80s and 90s grunge albums seem to make a highly sought after nowadays. And I have noticed that in the record phase, David, when we went to Bristol, there was a lot of it. A lot.
Well, Gav Axeman Spins, who may or may not show up in this chat, or he might say it afterwards, he will tell you that, and maybe Rob Walker as well, because they're both in their different ways interested in a lot of 90s bands, indie type stuff as well. And a lot of that stuff they weren't pressed on vinyl in any sort of large numbers because the bulk of the sales went through CDs. So
I'm going to give
sought after because they're all kind of rare.
I'm going to give a perfect example, and you're going to roll your eyes now because I'm going to mention a best of. But one of them for me is Blur, best of. It has been released on vinyl.
Is that a 7-inch single?
It was like, yeah, it should have been. But it's one of them, maybe a record store day or limited edition release that needs to be released. Because for me, again, Blur's best of, that's it. That's all I need. But yeah, I just think, is there any out there for you, Joe, that need to be released kind of on vinyl that you feel like, oh, why hasn't that been released? What's going on
Well,
there?
yeah. I mean, there's still lots of that. There's still lots of that. 90s so much, not so much the 80s. The 80s there was still enough. There you go, Park Life. So if you have a spare copy of that, David, you can just send that across the pond. I like to find stuff in the wild, including on live streams. But again, it's the 90s because there were two types of buyers in the 90s. There were the guys that were buying up the 80s, 60s, and 70s stuff that people were getting rid of because they were going, oh, I'm just going to get this on CD. But then there's also the buyers that, because there was still a little bit of vinyl being pressed, not a whole bunch, as David alluded to, like Nirvana, Nevermind. I don't know how many of those they actually pressed when it came out, but they didn't press them when it came out. And there was guys that were going into their record shop or into the CD shop, and almost like the porn closet in the back, there was the little bit of vinyl that was still being sold for a higher price at the time. But the higher price at the time was probably $20-$30 for a Nevermind at that point. And if you've got one of those originals now, again, in theory, they are worth X amount, whatever. So that stuff is hard to find just because of the limited number of pressings. And then it depends. I think your point after my long ass question or my long ass answer was, are people happy with represses or are they looking for those originals? And there are people that are specifically looking for those originals. For me, a repress for the most part is good. There's some that I want that original one, but an original Nevermind from 90, whatever year that was, at $300, or a really well done current pressing of it for 30 to 40 to 50 in some cases, I'm going to lean probably towards the repress. But
I'm going to ask David a question here, because when you done the video with me and Cam, you said to Cam, is there anything on your want list you want? And he said the Beatles, I think it was Yellow Submarine. And you went to him, do you want the original or repressed? And he went, and you went straight away, you want the original, didn't you? And he went, and he said, I'd love the original, but if there's a good reissue, then kind of that's what I would do.
Yeah, he did. I think, for me, it's always about the music. And I had a friend around here this afternoon listening to records here. And he was asking about whether, at one stage I'll get a better amp, a better turntable and all that sort of business. And I said, it comes to a point in time that the biggest difference in the sound quality you get is as much to do with the dimensions and the shape of the room than whether you spend an extra $1,000, £1,000 on another amplifier. And then I said, look, at the end of the day, we have to remember that when artists and the engineers and producers put the records together and they were doing test pressings and listening to the stuff, they wanted it to engineer the product so that it sounded good on all sorts of different systems, super high end and cheap. They still wanted the essence of the music to come through strong. And in a way, that reflects my opinion about original pressings versus the represses. Now, unless it's like sourced from digital and it's noticeably different to a trained ear, and I'm not sure my ears are that good anymore, that's maybe a different story. But man, it's about the music. I'm not going to sweat it just because it's got one of those fold over covers or whatever they call them. But it's just not. It's not important to me.
Yeah. I'm going to ask a question to the panel now. I'll start with Joe first. So at record phase, do you get people coming up to you and saying, "Oh, is this the first pressing or is this the second pressing? How much you charging for this one?"
Few and far between. I think there are certainly those that matters to. I think those buyers are not necessarily at the fairs or at that as much. They're looking for it individually. I think for the most part. I never had a problem with people taking them out and having a look at them. I never had an issue with that. And for the most part, I did try, or at least at the store, 100%. at the pop-up stuff as best as I could, but at the store, I do try and find specifically, and I've got my listings of, yes, this is the Canadian first press, or this is the UK and things like that. So there were some, but for the most part, that was not the case. And I think for those, it was the music. There's guys that were specifically looking for, I want a first press, or I want a mono, or I want a stereo. And then the rest of the people, for the most part, were, I want this album and this album and this album because it's cool. I like the cover. I want the music, etc. So, again, the short answer to that is yes, but few and far between that I found anyway. At the pop-ups, at the shop, it's a little different, but at the pop-ups.
David, how did you find it at the when you were selling records? Were there people coming up to you and asking you questions about the record at all, or was it kind of?
No, definitely not. I think it's because if you're, as Joe said, the real, avid collectors, the obsessive ones for this pressing or that pressing, they know their stuff. And these guys and gals will buy stuff, as Joe suggested, online. They'll buy them individually. And even if they were to show up, at my table at a record fair, I would say, almost, unless I know it, I bought it myself on the day of release or soon after the day of release, and there's quite a number of albums that would fall into that category. If I wasn't certain, I'd say just open it up and inspect it. You'll be able to check the all the stuff in the grooves, in the run out grooves, or open up the gatefold or whatever. I don't mind, but I think these people know what they're after, and that's not something that I think there was an album I sold last week. On reflection, I seriously underpriced.
Yeah,
by accident, but so what? It doesn't matter.
The person that got it wanted it, loved it, will want it.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Yeah.
And I have to say, I seriously underpriced at today's value. I wasn't seriously overpriced when I bought it.
Yeah. Sure, I understand exactly what you're saying. So, Chris, were you going to say something? I was going to show something, but go ahead.
Yeah, it's fine. I'm just going to go to the chat real quick because we got an international superstar here with us.
MGK,
MGK Boston. Greetings, Earthlings.
Mike, hello, sir.
I hope you're having a blast there, Mike.
Yeah, literally. How was the weather? How was Colton? Better than
I think everybody's always.
It just says, how's the cat?
Mike, Mike, how are you? How's Patty? How's Colton? And I don't think he takes offense to that, although he could speak to that, I suppose. But what?
Before we go to kind of showing albums of what we've picked up, was it Joe you wanted to cover?
Yeah, well, I wanted to show something because I don't know how David did his. I know with mine, I just had the price on there. And again, if questions came up about pressings and things like that, I tried to answer it as best as I could. Now, I was taking literally thousands sometimes of boxes to a show. David, I'm not sure. I mean, I saw your video. You had a lot, right? So, yeah, there you go. So, but some guys don't take a whole bunch. They've maybe got 2 or 3 or 4 crates, and depends on the amount of time. But there are certain sellers, and I don't know how well that's going to come through. It will help if I actually put it. So there are sellers that will do as individual tag for each album. I got this from a good friend named Brian, and again, he took the time. He got these little stars, and I'm going to give you 5 or 10 minutes to actually get the picture big here. Hey, let him go. But so again, he took the time to write this out by hand, and he's got the gradings on there. Now, he didn't actually go into he did a little bit with the Best Buy series, and I think those were just specifically Canadian. But anyway, so there are certain sellers that will go to the extent of, here's my grading for the cover for that. Here is the specific the specific pressing of this. There are guys that will do that, and more power to them. Sometimes they are the ones that maybe add a couple extra bucks because it did take them a little more time. So I always found that if someone really wanted to know, I would try and help them out as best as I could. And again, I just had too many sometimes to actually put a sticker on each individual ones. At the shop, Again, I don't. I've got the price on there, but again, I allow people, you know what, sit down, here's a chair, take a look through, let me know, because I'll go in the back and I'll look in my list and I'll tell you this is a second pressing Canadian and it's on this label, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But there are certain vendors, and David, you probably found there were guys that just had price stickers on, and then there were guys that maybe did that, and there were guys that maybe had even more information.
I kind of went midway because I didn't mention it earlier, but alongside the price, I put my grading of the record.
Yeah.
And there were a few people who bought maybe 10 LPs at the same time. They looked at 3 or 4, saw my grading was reliable, and then let's do the transaction.
Sure. Yeah.
And so I did contemplate. I mean, there might come a point in time if I blow a great big hole in this purge collection. What's left, I might actually go the extra mile and provide more information, or maybe even some recommendations, because those of us who are a bit long in the tooth, we been buying records for a long time. We take our knowledge for granted when it comes to some bands, and we think, well, everybody knows this band, but actually they don't, especially the younger generation. So if there's a little sticker you can put on where you can write a little bit more, if you like so and so, you might like this.
Yeah.
And so on. So yeah, I think when the numbers get down, I'll consider doing that myself.
Yeah, it's tough at first when you've got a whole bunch. It's a little overwhelming, but something that you can work on as you go along as well. So hey, there you go. Good.
There we go. We're gonna update here. Colton and Patty are doing great and looking forward to seeing some VC folks in July. So there you go.
Who's MJK Boston?
It's Mike. Brian saying it's only 132 days till the party, so
he's got the countdown going already.
Yes.
So
I hope he's
good.
negotiating deals with what is it, Sonic Boom in Toronto.
Yeah, we've got a serious question here, David.
To negotiate a discount before I come over again.
So before we show what we got, there's a serious question of Cam here. So it's going to be serious because Cam's making it. I think labels like Mofo, DSS, BSM are getting wise and untapped market of the 90s music. Sadly, they are going the other end of the pressing them as one-step pricings are out of a lot of people's budget, I should imagine.
Yeah, they're taking those ones and they're redoing them, but then they're also putting the $100+ price on them. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Go ahead.
Yeah. The only expensive ones I buy is Rhino. If there's a press in like the Velvet Underground, I bought quite a few of them. But saying that, it's only like 40 quid.
Sure.
And sometimes I get free shipping. So for me, I'm buying directly off the company, pretty much. Of reissues that have never been reissued or there's been a while, that kind of thing. But yeah. That's pretty much how I feel about it. David,
Sorry. Rhino falls into that category of they are a step above some others, but they are well below others, and you get very nice quality out of them. So, and they're doing quite a bit now. Again, they haven't really delved too deep into that 90s stuff and things like that, but they're certainly picking and choosing good albums, I think, and reproducing them at a elevated price, but an elevated pressing of that at a fair elevated price, if that makes sense. I think anyway with the Rhino stuff. So,
okay.
I placed an order for a Blue Note Tone Poet this evening. Before we started, I've got one, and of course there's a whole series. And as I responded to Cam's question earlier, I'm not all in on jazz, so I'm quite selective. And but this particular album that I ordered tonight was demoed here this afternoon, and even though I've got a good 1970s stereo pressing of this album, this Monotone Poet was one of those albums that I knew I could pick up. The packaging is fantastic, beautiful quality. The noise floor on the pressing is rock bottom, and the clarity of the actual music is that definitely a level above. So now and again, I will go into that territory, but it's pretty rare for me.
Yeah, I just yeah, I'm with you guys 100% on that one. If there's an album from Rhino that I'd like, the only one I'd say that didn't need a Rhino release was probably the Sex Pistols. Joe, I've spoken to this before. That needs to sound raw. Like raw.
Yeah, you want that's like the Clash London Calling. You want that a
Yeah.
little bit dirty. You want the cover just a little bit beat up, like it lived through the first listenings of those albums, especially the Sex Pistols. But yeah, there's certain ones that lend themselves. I'll be honest, there are some audiophile records that sound like crap compared to the original recordings, and they're not the high-end original recordings. As an example, there is a Brothers in Arms. If you take a Canadian first pressing Brothers in Arms, and there is an audiophile one that came out, I think, early 2000s, and do a side-by-side test, I would be hard-pressed to find maybe one person would pick the audiophile one. It was a poor, bad pressing. So that's the other thing, too, is you got to do your homework a little bit and find out, am I going to spend my money on this hi-fi pressing? David, you said, there's this Tone Poet one, which is audible and notable for sure. That's great. But there are some audiophile pressings that are no better than those originals if you can find them, and the originals are sometimes a little bit less. Stevie Wonder in the Key of Life is very well pressed back in the day. There is I can't remember which company repressed it. It is head and shoulders above. It is priced head and shoulders above those originals. The originals were great, but it is noticeable. So you got to do your homework a little bit too if you're going to start to buy some of those audiophile pressings.
Can I come back to the record fair topic briefly? Because I do want to say one thing about record fairs that I really don't like as a buyer, and this also goes for record shops, by the way, and that is overstuffed bins.
Oh, mate, don't get me started.
So when I put my bins together for this particular fair, I filled them to in such a way that people could flip with one hand.
Yeah,
good.
The idea, you've got to stretch it and pick it out. I'll walk away from a stall or a shop that has overstuffed bins. We got one or two record shops locally. There's one of them that does this too much. It's not in the immediate vicinity, but it's within like Birmingham area that I used to shop at occasionally. But I love to be able to go through a bin in like 30 seconds. Boom.
Yeah.
And it's people who overstuff the bins. It's almost like they're desperate, or they want to grasp every single sales opportunity without realizing that the customer experience is so important.
I think we saw this in Bristol a lot.
We did.
Apart from one where I picked up two albums at the same time, that I could see the albums and pick them out instead of just doing, this.
Yeah.
Gonna pick it off the bins. I'm like, what are we doing here? Because there's a chance that album's gonna be damaged at this point. Because you've just gone with all the albums. I know Bristol, you're probably paying more than a normal record fair to have your table. I get that. I understand that. But don't take the piss. Because if all the bins are rammed, how are you expecting people? You could have flicked through them, mate. That's the whole purpose of a record fair, to flick through these albums. When you've got them, you're trying to pull them out. And my eyesight's getting worse since I hit 40. But I don't know, that could be any Dire Straits album to me, because you need to get them out and have a look. Now we discussed this on your channel when we went to Bristol, and I said to him, stop doing this, doing my head in. But it is doing my head in, and it's ridiculous. Did you find that in the record, the one you sold on, Dave, that it was kind of the same situation, or people started going, hang on a minute, let's just flick through some stuff?
Oh well, my strategy now when I'm buying is that I'll grab a pile from the front, I'll pick them up, and I'll slap them down on top of the next box while I flip. No one said anything yet, but if anyone was to say anything, I'm doing this so I can get through your stock to see what I want to buy, mate. But having said that, I think most of the record fairs I end up going to, it's a good experience. Bristol was overwhelming because it was so large. And I say that as somebody who went to Den Bosch in Holland last year. It was just a bit overwhelming for what we hoped would be like a 2 or 3 hour visit. But most of these record fairs are great. They're a great way of buying, because I think in a way it's almost the only way to buy now if you're not buying new, because the charity shops and thrift stores don't have any stock anymore.
They don't.
And unless you start going on Facebook Marketplace and buying up people's collections and going through all the hassle of that, which I know some people do, and some people really enjoy doing that and get some good results, I think that's a lot of work. So I'm getting more and more of a positive experience when I go to record fairs now, because there's good stuff there that I've just not found anywhere else for a long time.
I'm going to be honest now. I've been doing a series recently, which and Joe knows, that because my job makes me travel a lot throughout Wales, which has been amazing because I get to record shops, charity shops. But what I've noticed with charity shops these days is they've got their own markup now. Like, they never used to have a markup.
Yeah.
Like before, Joe, it was kind of, I don't know, give us £3 for this. How much do you reckon that's worth? Just donate to us. Now they've got a system in place.
Yeah.
Where they know how much that record is going to cost. And if you're going to resell it, which I don't do, if I don't, like, say for instance, I think the album's really shit and it's scratched to shit, I'll go back to a charity shop the next day and I'll just hand them back to them. Or if I think the album's in good condition, but I don't like the record, I'll VCLT out to somebody in the vinyl community saying, I know you like this band.
Yeah.
You'll appreciate this more than I will. Yeah.
Let me state something real quick. David, don't take offense if I walk away. I'm an old man with a small bladder and a big cup. So, never take offense if I walk away when you're talking. It's not because I don't care what you're saying. I just have to whiz. That's it. But yeah, with that, Chris, certainly it used to be you would go into a Salvation Army, a Sally Ann or whatever. There's a couple other chain type ones here, Value Village, and it would be $1 a piece. And for the most part, you would find things that are not even worth that dollar in the charity shops here for the most part. But yeah, now I think there are certain places where they're hiring or they're getting or putting in control of the albums that are going out, people who have a little bit of an idea. Now, at the same time, they've gone overboard in a lot of places as well, where they're starting to ask the ridiculous amounts because, again, maybe someone said, oh, you should check on Discogs. And they went and they saw the Beatles' White Album that Ringo Starr sold for $2 million. Well, mine's got to be worth, $100,000. Right? Like, there's a lot of that. There isn't any thought and effort put into it where, at a true shop or whatever you want to call it, there's a little bit more of that. But you're right. I think that the pricing in the charity shops and in the charity, at least in my mind, what a charity shop is like I say, like a Salvation Army, where people will go donate it and then they put a bunch of albums out. And that used to be $1 a piece or $2 a piece. And now there's still a bunch of that, but there is more in a counter or somewhere else as well.
I just find sometimes like the people going to charity shops are doing record fairs and thinking to themselves, hang on a minute, we can do a charity shop, or like a car boot sale, pickups, and then we can sell them at the record fairs. Yeah. But there's I want to ask the question to David, which is I've tried to avoid all evening, but I'm gonna ask it now. How have you found the feedback on your purge and kind of your experience of maybe a positive and negative side of you selling? Now, for me, it's a positive because I'm good mates with you, you know that, and I bought quite a few records off you, which I wouldn't have bought or wouldn't have got a hold of in a good way. So how have you found it, Dave, overall?
It's been overwhelmingly positive. I mean, it's amazing. I mean, look, this vinyl community thing, when we watch what we make and we watch other people's videos, it's all about the experience of enjoying music. So these travel logs that we do to new towns or record shops, record fairs, meetups, showing vinyl, showing stuff that you're going to get rid of. It's all part of the rich tapestry of what's this kind of what is a fairly loose community. And it's, to me, it's kind of all good. And it gets a bit dull for me as a viewer because I watch a lot of YouTube, and it gets a bit dull if the person's always sitting in the same place and they never show a visit to a record shop and so on. It's all it's all interesting. The views I've had on the videos have been brilliant, absolutely brilliant. The one I did last Sunday, I did the fair last Sunday. About a day or two later, I put out a video because I promised people in the earlier videos I was going to kind of report back on what the experience was like. That video's got over 6,000 views in about 5 days, which is absolutely insane. And 100 and odd comments under all the videos, and they've been overwhelmingly positive. A lot of people are saying, well done for following through on the promise, because a lot of people say they're going to purge and then they find it too difficult because we are emotionally attached to this stuff. So people have been good in that respect, but they're also saying, kind of well done. It's they understand why it's being done, and they're curious about how successful it's likely to be. So it's been 99% has been absolutely overwhelmingly positive. It's been fantastic.
May I ask a question quick, Chris?
Yeah.
So at yours, I know at ours, when I used to run them, there was a time frame before the doors opened. Were you allowed to go and look through the other vendors' stuff? And then was there also a time frame that I don't know if they charged to get into the ones that you guys went to? We would always charge, but when I was running them, I would charge $5-10 or whatever to get in, but we gave all of that money to charity. It would just ended up being a bit of a
Joe, they charged £5 for coffee, so no, they didn't charge us to get in.
No. So, like I said, we used to charge $10 for the first hour, so that got you in a little bit early. Again, all of that that wasn't me that took that. That was all we found actually like Regina Cat Rescue, things like that. We would always do that. So, my question is, was there a lot of looking before the doors opened, and then was there that premiere hour or so before the one that you were at specifically? I
will go first. I will go first, Dave. Before Dave goes, right? So that's the biggest record fair I've ever been to. He's been to a bigger one in Germany than I have.
Right. Yeah.
But I walked in there with Dave and Cam, and I remember I literally picked my phone up and started recording. It was just, I wasn't recording just for the channel. I was just recording to try and just take some B slides or something. And I was like, holy shit.
Yeah.
What the hell is this? I'm like, I'm looking down at the ground floor. We're on the first floor. And I remember Cam behind me going, bloody Nora. And I was like, shit, this is massive. Like, I've been to halls and, churches, stuff before, really small, like 4 or 5 vendors. But this was on a different scale altogether. And I remember thinking, oh, how am I going to explain this to Liz?
Well, that and you can't be one of those guys, the fear of missing out, because if you walk into there and the fear of missing out is I have to look through all of this, and there are people at some that will look through every single album.
I tried. We were quite lucky actually, because we got there quite early to me, Dave. So we kind of you were asking the questions to the vendors, going, can we kind of look, see what's going on? And they were like, crack on, we don't care. Money's money to us. So we had a quick look, not really, and then we sat down, had a cup of coffee and kind of stuff. But over to you, Dave.
But I think Joe's questions are very specific. And so the first one, there was an entry fee, and there was a £10 charge if you got in an hour earlier than the rest of the general public.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
As a
Yep.
seller, I had to hire the table, but I didn't have to pay entry, obviously, because I'd already paid.
Right.
But I've been warned is that somebody or a few people had said to me, you'll open up your boxes and then the traders, the shop owners will be straight in before the public and basically take all the good stuff.
Yeah.
And then
Yep.
it'll be on their stand before you can blink. So my strategy was to arrive on time and set up very slowly and only open up the boxes when the public arrived. So I did get some traders come and buy some records off me, but they were in competition with members of the general public buying one or two. And I like that because, you know, I've got nothing against traders and people who sell records for a living or a hobby. You know, all power to them. It's great. But there's nothing like meeting somebody in the VC or a member of the public who you can just tell is really wants this record, really loves it. And to sell that, you know, if there's an album that someone wants to buy and they've got to go to a record shop and pay £20 for it, and I've got it for £10, and I know it's well priced, and they buy and are delighted with it, that's a little kind of a mini thrill. It's great. It's lovely. And I just don't like selling records to flippers.
I've got to cover this. It's going to happen. I put off so much. Negative, Dave.
Oh, negative. Well, someone sent me a video the other day of somebody who was whinging about someone talking about selling records on YouTube and all that sort of business. And I viewed the video and I kind of thought, it was low quality video, rambling, you know, speaking. It was kind of quite pitiful, really. And I don't, you know, kind of cretinous. You just think, well, what the hell is this all about? It's ridiculous. And I thought about like responding and saying, what are you on about? But I kind of just, I was reminded by, I just thought of the old Napoleon quote, is never interrupt the enemy, your enemy, when they're making a mistake. Yeah. And I thought, well, someone's going to have a word with this person for being really quite foul and abusive. But this particular person's got form and thinks for some reason they are the custodian of the spirit and the rules within the vinyl community, which is completely delusional. But that's the only negative thing I've had.
I think we need to get back to actually doing why we joined YouTube in the first place, was to show records, be positive, and kind of move on.
And meet people. You know, it's great.
Yeah, that's always been the case. Chris, you've seen me on other live streams. We've talked. This is about meeting people because we've got the friends that are sick and tired of listening to us talk about our records. That's why we come here, because you guys will never get sick and tired of me talking about my records, and we can come, you know, we can talk and we can do those types of things. There are some shitty people on here, and I've tried to cut them out as much as I possibly can. There are also some shitty people in the buying and selling world, which, David, unfortunately, as you move through that a little bit more, you will find there's guys that will scoop deals from you and then turn around and want to be your friend. Like there's guys that I know for sure. I was talking to someone and fairly talking to someone, and then they came in and they got the collection away from them. They said, oh, that guy's an asshole, don't sell to him, or, you know, I'll pay you better than he's going to. There's all that type of crap, but it's just a matter of getting rid of that. And because there are so many wonderful people, I've made great friends both on here and in the buying and selling community. So you just have to weed all that crap out. It's unfortunate that it comes up because this is about the music. This is about friendship. This is about getting along with people. And it's unfortunate there has to be those types of people, both in person and on here as well. But, we just try and weed them out as much as we possibly can.
I've
I
had
think
issues.
for me,
Yeah.
if I may, I think for me, I think I've got the benefit is that I don't care. I really don't care. I'm in this for the fun. I'm in this for the companionship and the friendship and the adventure. I was in North America last year. I'm going to be in North America again this summer with Embryonic and at MJK's Bash, and Vinyl Martini and a whole host of other people I met last year. And that's what I'm in for. And if someone wants to, I mean, occasionally I'll go onto my YouTube and there's like a dashboard or something like that where you can see how many people comment and all that sort of business and some statistics. Most of my videos have got 100% people who express an opinion, like or dislike. It's like 100% likes or 95% likes. So there's a handful of trolls, and I don't know how many people are active in this vinyl community around the world, but let's assume for argument's sake, it's 1,000. Out of 1,000, there's about 20 assholes. And these people, and this particular person who had something to say this last week, is a stranger, and he's gonna remain that way. So I don't give a shit.
Yeah, that's good.
I've had an issue with this stranger, shall we say, and
The same guy.
I really don't give a shit about him and his community and the rest of it. Whatever he wants to do, you crack on. You carry on doing what you want to do. I know what you like. So,
I think the thing is, listen, if he's got good friends, and good luck to him if he has, these friends are letting him down because he's making himself look a bit of a dick online. And why the hell would you want to do that?
Anyway, we've spent far too much time on
overwhelmingly positive, one negative.
I'm going to show an album that I picked up from a record fair.
Okay.
So I've got a few here.
I'm going to show an artist who's from a band that I love very much so, and I think everybody's going to know exactly what this is.
Stereophonics, surely not, please.
I got one of those.
Seriously, mate, what is your issue with the Stereophonics? Because they are the best British band.
I'll tell you my issue with the Stereophonics is your obsession.
Oh, shit. This is where I turn around the live stream and go fuck yourself, Dave.
Whoa, that's harsh.
I've heard worse. The last week.
He knows I love him. This one.
Right.
Taylor Hawkins.
That's an awful cover. My God.
It's amazing, isn't it?
That's awful.
This was before AI, by the way. So somebody's actually painted this.
Yeah.
Taylor
For money.
Hawkins.
I hope they got paid well.
Can I finish what I'm saying?
Yeah, go on. Carry on.
Taylor Hawkins and the Coat Riders. Good album, good band. This is his side kind of project. They were in the Taylor Hawkins tribute. They were amazing. Absolutely fantastic. Nothing like the Foo Fighters. If I was trying to explain this, it's very, like, as you can see, surfing music. Not Beach Boys, but kind of, he sings in it. He's not the best singer, but I'm a Foo Fighters fan, so what am I to do? This just came on black vinyl. This was from the Bristol Record Fair. I think I paid 20 quid, Dave, for this one.
Oh, get those fingers off the playing surface.
Mate, it's got to be clean, so shut up. Don't worry about it. I knew you were going to say that. But yeah, that's my first one for this evening. Because he's done my head in all night. Instead of going to Dave, we'll go to Joe. Go on, Joe, mate.
No, fine. Okay. So just because we talked about it earlier, if you had 1,000 copies of this album,
here we go.
you would sell 1,000 copies of this album. There were millions and millions and millions of these sold, but it is still in it's still in high demand. And, again, it's one that you can probably get a little bit more for because everybody seems to want it. but I sell it for, I don't know, I think I sell it for $15 Canadian for the most part, most of the time. But so not necessarily one that I picked up, but one that, again, if you had 100 copies of these at a record fair or a shop or wherever, you would sell 100 copies fairly easily. And there's a few like that. Meatloaf Bat Out of Hell is along the lines of that. There's a few records where you can just get copies and copies and copies of them. And despite the fact that there were millions of them sold, there are still a bunch of people looking for it, like that one. So
well, that one I heard part of a 45 RPM version this afternoon, literally this afternoon. And I know that album pretty well because I bought that album on the day it came out back in the 70s, because I'd already bought Go Your Own Way on 7-inch. And I listened to Dreams as a demo, and it was on 45 RPM. It's bloody stunning, and I was hearing stuff for the first time. But then I was advised it's going to be north of £100 if I'm lucky enough to get my hands on one. So that's going to remain on the wants list.
Cool.
Should I pick an album?
Well,
right.
Might be a good idea.
I'm going to acknowledge a little bit of VCLT, and this is what I got from Den Bosch in Holland last year.
Okay.
Last April. I've had this album on CD. I had a remix album, but somebody went out there, and while they were searching in the bins, they found this album, and that is Propaganda's Secret Wish. German band on the ZTT label. Sounds absolutely amazing. Kind of electronic pop. So let's not get into any aspersions to krautrock. It's not what it's about, but it's got this kind of industrial sound as well. Brilliant 80s album. And it was Rob Walker who found that for me and gifted it to me. And I brought it home, put it through the cleaner, and it is absolutely immaculate. So that's one of like the top 3 or 4 records I've ever got my hands on as a result of a record fair.
Cool, mate. Right.
I used to have that, and then I sold it at a at a pop-up. I used to have that when I sold it at a pop-up. So
yeah.
Over to Joe. What have you got, mate?
Well, no, it's your turn.
Oh, is it? Sorry. Hang on. I don't know what's going on.
Don't let Chris control. I mean, I can go, but no, now you're big. You go. But it was your turn.
Record fair in Tenby.
You better tell people around the world where Tenby is.
It's the center of the world for tourism.
Yeah.
Joe knows where it is. I've sent him so many videos.
Yes.
I love Tenby. Like, I just love the place. It's David knows, he's been there. It's so relaxing. There's a sign as you come into Tenby, and if you translate it from Welsh into English, it says where the I think it's off English. Sorry, mate. I think it's something like where the fishermen go to the sea and they come back as men. That kind of thing. It's the greatest hits. But this is John Lennon, my favorite Beatle. I've got to be honest. I prefer John to anybody else. This is the collection. So, Instant Karma, Power to the People. Yeah. Happy Christmas. There's a Christmas song for you. What have you got? You got Jealous Guy, Stand By Me, I'm Losing You, Watching the Wheel, Dear Yoko. So this cost me £1.50, which is random as shit. Yeah. I was like, can't we just call it £1 or £2? Like, literally. But yeah, but John Lennon, this came on black vinyl.
He did that just to piss you off, you know. I think
yes,
is what he's doing.
I did that on purpose. Did you notice that?
Just remind me not to buy any records of him.
unless they're sealed.
Yeah, that's
Absolutely.
right.
So yeah, there you go. Bit of John Lennon. Been very tempted by the box set. I can't remember what it's called. It is the greatest hits, but it's like 500 quid or something. I'm like, I'm not spending that. So, whose turn is it next? Is it Joe or
Yeah,
okay. Yeah, cool. Cheers, mate.
don't care.
I
Okay.
don't know what's going on at this point.
Is anybody still listening?
Are you out there? Okay.
Yes, they are.
So I mentioned before that I used to put the pop-ups on, and you would get a wide variety of sellers. Some guys would come in, and again, they'd have a box. Some guys would come in, and they'd have 100 boxes, and then there was everybody else. There was a gentleman that came to one, I think maybe the third or the fourth one that I came. He had 100 boxes. He was an older guy, a little older than me, so we'll call him in his mid 60s, maybe early 70s even, but he'd been a long time collector. He had a wonderful collection, but he always brought a lot of stuff when he came because he just did. That was what he did. Anyway, so with that said, my son Riley and I helped him load into his trailer at the end, and he goes, "Okay, pick something." So from that, I picked this. So didn't pay for this one at a pop-up, but got this one at a pop-up. Nice Canadian version of George. I don't know if I have a favorite. It might be George. I don't know. But this is a fantastic album that was gifted by a very nice gentleman because we helped him load all his records into his trailer when we were done at the pop-up. And when I do those, or when I used to do those at the end and at the beginning, I always used to think to myself, this would just be much easier if these were CDs, but not as much fun though. So that's like DJing these days. DJing these days is so freaking easy. You need your laptop and you need a bunch of files. I used to DJ where I would carry milk crates of shit in and like, let's do this. And then even got a little crazier and used to do it with videotapes. But anyway, I digress. So there you go. A little George Harrison and All Things Must Pass. Didn't buy it at a shop pop-up, but I got it at a pop-up.
Cool, mate. Very, very cool.
Well, I'm gonna pick an album that you wouldn't get at a regular record shop, but you would get at a record fair. And one of the things that's really good about record fairs at the moment is there are a lot of sellers of sealed new vinyl, of albums that are kind of quasi bootlegs, grey market. They're kind of they're allowed to be sold in Europe, but not in North America. And I picked up one album that I had a CD version of this, but it was just a rip that somebody had done for me, and I found it, and I've had mixed experience with it. But let me tell you, it is Steely Dan's The Lost Gaucho, the 1980 Rarities. And this is a double album that cost me, I think it might have cost me £20. And it's of the alternative takes and other tracks, demos that were in the sessions for Gaucho, the last Steely Dan album before their breakup, around 1980, 81. 2 LPs. The first one, audio, is 8 out of 10. Really excellent. Alternative versions, alternative titles, alternative lyrics. Really excellent. The second disc is disappointing. You've got some tape issues and so on and so forth. But I would have been happy to pay that sort of money for the first disc alone. I think that is really, really good. And Gaucho is my favorite Steely Dan album.
Cool. That's good. Yeah, never seen that one.
Right. I've got to try and move me now. Hang on. Nope.
Yep. There you go.
Hey. 2 secs. Hang on. What the hell is going on? You just maximize and then I'll move myself. There you go. So, pick this up from Bristol Record Fair. Another one. Bit of Embrace. Now, Joe, you probably never heard of this band.
I have not. No. Tell me more, please.
They're great.
I like the art. I like the cover. That's awesome.
It's I think I picked this up, Dave, for a tenner, I think, in Bristol. Drawn from memory. Now, Embrace were big in the early, I'll say, 96, 97 time, I want to say. Come up with the song Back to What You Know, and then come back with Gravity and the rest of the songs. They were the official song for England World Cup in
Kind of an indie band, though, aren't they? They're an
2006.
indie band.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Indie band, yeah, in Britain.
Yeah.
Really, really good. I'll send you some stuff, Joe. Don't worry.
Okay. That sounds good.
Yeah. So yeah, good band. Good deal on this one. They don't do many tracks. It's kind of like, I know Dave hates me using this word, but the stereophonics, they're like, there's not that many tracks on it. So you can listen to it, kind of 6 tracks or 5 tracks, flip it over, another 5 tracks, and that's it, pretty much. But yeah, brilliant band. Embrace, love them, absolutely love them. But yeah, great band, chilled indie band. I really like them. So, Dave, your comments on Embrace? Or
I don't know them very. I mean, I remember buying. I was all in on CD singles in the 90s because you could get them so cheap, and I was just hoovering up everything. And so I've got a few Embrace CD singles, but I never bought any vinyl.
The album I'll send you, Joe, is Out of Nothing, which is a bit more upbeat. The singer is very chilled. Very chilled. I'll send you some links. You can check it out on YouTube. I don't explain it, to be honest.
We need to live closer to each other. We're keeping both Canada Post and the UK Post in business with the amount of money it costs to send things back and forth. It's ridiculous, but
yeah, but like I think last time I spent a bit more and it got you quicker.
Yeah, that's you can spend a bit more and it gets there quicker, or just put it out 5 or 7 months down the line. I sent some stuff into the United States a while ago too. It wasn't much less, actually, even within Canada. It's ridiculous. So it'd be nice if we could just go, look, we're trying to do something nice for our friends. Why are you charging me? But they got to keep in business, I guess.
So David, for instance, I sent Joe some stereophonics a few months ago for like 15 quid, and it took 5 weeks to get there. Yeah. I spent 30 quid and it took a week.
The solution, guys, is that you all get your diaries together and you go to MGK Boston Summer Bash and you take the records with you. That's what I did last year.
Yep. Yeah, that's the thing. You just load up and you make sure you've got what you want to take, and away you go. Hey, are you still enjoying that Black Tea album, Chris?
Oh, mate, it's Dave. You've got to. I don't know how I'm going to get that album to you, but it's amazing. I love it.
I think it's worth a listen. I do think it's worth a listen for sure. It's got a little flavor of a lot of stuff. So just a local Regina band from where I am, David.
How would you describe the genre on that one? Because I'm just thinking in my head.
Well, I would give it a little bit of southern rock, like a little Black Crowes, which are not necessarily always southern rock, but there's a song on there that honestly puts me in the mind of a little bit of Led Zeppelin in some of their time frame. It's just good songwriting and good musicianship, and they're very good live. Actually, they've got a live show coming up in the next month or so. Joanne goes, "We're going, right?" And I said, "Yeah, we're going." So it's good when you can get your lovely wife to be talking about going to a show. Yeah, there's a little
they've
got a new one coming out that is pretty decent as well. I liked the Bastards one from a couple years ago, and I think the Black Crowes have kind of had a little bit of resurgence, but that's not why we're here today. Anyway, go and check out Black Tea, everybody that watches this. Speaking of bootlegs, what sometimes happens, and I'm not sure if you'll find as you move along, David, there are people that will come to a show that have a box of records in their car because they want to trade right live while you're there, and or hey, you want to come look at the records I've got. I've bought some stuff out of car boots, trunks at shows, including these. This guy had a whole box of these are not borderline bootlegs. These are 100% bootlegs, but a big surprise, Joe has a bootleg Kiss record, but this is just from back in the day when they used to take the tape recorders into the stadium and they would record them, and they sound horrible, but they were the right price. So, and it's a cool look. It's kind of got the Obi look and things like that. But
That's
there
a
was
nice
that.
package.
Yeah, and then there was
That's what she said.
What's that?
That's what she said.
Yeah, that's what she said. Yeah, exactly. But so yeah, it doesn't happen often, but it happened more than once where guys would come to these, and he didn't stick around. He came in. I happened to be the first front table, and he goes, "You guys ever buy records at these things?" And I said, "Sure." So hey, watch my table for a second, went out to the car, bought a bunch, brought the box in, and kept them all for myself because they were mostly a lot of the Kiss bootlegs and things like that. But so that was kind of neat. That doesn't happen a lot, but it does happen from time to time where people will bring stuff. Not so much trade. That's a little tough because it's kind of hectic at these things, and getting into trading and that is odd sometimes. But there's people that have done that as well, where they've brought some things and, you know, here's some things I want to sell, trade. What do you got? Would you do it? And if you've got the time, why not? I think anyway.
Yeah. I think in my
quick
experience
question.
sorry.
Quick
I was
question
going to
on
say,
this one.
in response to that, my experience selling for the first time last week is that there's not enough time. I didn't anticipate. I didn't feel that I had enough time to, have more than 4 or 5 good conversations. It was just, everything was just kind of so fast.
Sure. Yeah, no, I get that for sure. And this was a little bit later in the show as well. Yeah. That's the other tip for anybody that's going, go later to the show. You want to get there early and get all the stuff, but you also want to get there a little bit later, because then sometimes guys will offer up a deal a little bit less to carry home. Not always, but sometimes.
But you discovered Black Tees as a supporting act, Joe.
Yeah, they opened up for Took actually. So yeah, that they were the opening act, and it's surprising. Again, a young band in their early mid-20s, been around for a little while, but they made a purpose. They made a point. They knew they wanted to have some on vinyl. So they went out independently. They got 100 pressed. There's not a lot of them out for now. They're getting a second run done, but they went out and they pressed 100 and they had them at their gigs and they're selling it. So back to that earlier question of, do you think vinyl is going away? I don't think so, because even the artists themselves realize it's a thing, and they are taking the time to get albums pressed and have them for sale at their merch table, because they can make a little bit of money off it, but they also know there's lots of us that will go and will buy the records live at the shows as well. So
right, I'll pull up Dave real quick so you can show kind of what he's got left there.
Should I be quick?
Yeah, it's up to you, mate, and then we'll end the stream and go round.
Well, I'll tell you what I bought. 2 from last week and one from Bristol, which and the first 2 I have alternative copies. No, I had them, and the third one is that I used to have, and I don't have it anymore. But that goes for 2. So anyway, to hell with it. Let me just get on with last week. Towards the end of the show, to pick up Joe's suggestion there, late in the show, I was having a conversation. The place was thinning out, having a conversation with an excellent guy, and he had some stuff that he was discounting, and we were just talking generally about, not about buying and selling, we're trading stories about bands we've seen and all that sort of business. And in his cheap bin for a $5 were these 2 albums that are the Free Story, which is the European version of Free, the compilation. I've got the Canadian version. I've had that for decades. This is the one that I didn't realize, or I didn't think I was ever going to get. And I like that. And there's an alternative version of a song that I'll talk about. But also, I used to own this album. In fact, I used to own both of these albums. And for some reason, They disappeared, maybe in a house move or a party or whatever. But I'm glad I've got them in the collection again. First one here is the Joy Division still, which is like the double album of live stuff and that. And this is Sham 69 from 1978. Tell Us the Truth. One side live, one side studio, raw punk, which I really liked them back in the day. But for some reason, it disappeared. But I've got it again, and it cost me $5. So I'm well chuffed with that.
Well done, mate. Guys, this has been amazing. I've loved this tonight.
Good.
Just put up Daryl's comment quick. I just want to allude
I
to
can't see
that.
the comments here. Am I missing the 23 comments? My God.
Yeah. If you see it, buy it. I know that really applies to a lot of things, but if you see it, buy it. And if it's in a little bit of a rough shape, buy it. Put it as a placeholder in your collection and maybe find that better one the next time. So if anybody takes anything away from this, along with other great things that we've talked about, if you see something, buy it if you can. Again, and now that was a reasonably priced if you see it, buy it. There are some crazy insane if you see it, maybe I can't buy it, but I just wanted to kind of point that out, that Daryl posted that.
Cool. Right. I'm just going to go around the panel real quick. Joe.
Yeah.
You're going to be busy the next couple of weeks, aren't you?
What? What's that?
You're going to be busy the next couple of weeks.
Oh yeah, a little bit, but that's okay. That's good. I'm even going to Montreal, and I hope to hook up with maybe with French Vinyl Addict as well while I'm there. I haven't got a hold of him yet, but I want to try and get a hold of him because I'm going to go to Montreal. Anyway, on my channel, personal channel, I've got the Rock and Roll Jeopardy game show going. For those that have no idea what the hell I'm talking about, just go to my channel. I got 3 contestants. We do a kind of a rock and roll Jeopardy, but we can't call it that, so we call it Jeopardy. And there's a couple of episodes up there. There's a couple episodes that are coming up in the near future that might have some people that you'll recognize as well. At the shop, I bought a small collection. You know what? We didn't pay $1 a piece for them. We paid a little bit for them. That's the other thing too. For those that are, if you're going to go into a shop and sell your stuff, there are going to be shops that, and we have to make money. And there is the old adage of I've got to clean it and I've got to put a sleeve on it. And that's true. 100% that's true. So if you're just looking to bulk sell some, yes, you're going to get a little less, but there are some shops that will pay a little bit more. Like I'd like to think that we do. We paid up a little bit. We didn't pay retail price because that doesn't make any sense, but we paid up a little bit. So that's going to go out in the next little while. So I've got some videos on the store channel based on that. So yeah, busy's good though. I got no problem with being busy. That's a good thing. So, because it's all record related. So really, you know, when I say I go to work, I do not go to work in the day. Really, when I'm at the shop, that's not working anyway. So
I think as a record collector, we all want to work in a record shop.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, it's fantastic. It really is. And again, I love getting the big collections and going through them and sorting them and cleaning them and looking at them and doing all that stuff. That's heaven. And you know, not necessarily getting paid to do it, but still, it's fantastic. So, and it's a ton of fun. It's just a ton of fun. And I think, David, as you move along through this process, you'll find more and more. You'll see guys from show to show that you'll start to recognize, and hopefully they're the good ilk, not the bad ilk that I talked about. And you know, you'll make some good friends, much like the friends you've made on here. I think you'll find that you'll make some at these record sales, because it's all, again, a mindset of the same type of people. Some it's a business, 100%. Some it's a business, but most it's what I think that you and I got into, and what you have gotten into it for as well.
So, David, anything coming up on the channel, mate?
I haven't done a finds video for about 3, 4, maybe 5 months. And even though I'm purging a lot of records, I'm still buying a fraction of what I'm selling, but I'm still buying. So I've got a video that probably come out tomorrow, which is just a selection of albums that I bought over the last couple of months. I might have a second video along the same lines, because I've pulled out ones that might be interesting. And this, you know, I kind of like to share records that people might have seen but maybe not heard, and maybe try and encourage them to investigate it further and possibly buy it themselves. So they're not like necessarily mainstream, but they're not ultra obscure either. But hopefully something that will be interesting to viewers. I've also got a couple of kind of long running series. I've got this series called My Life with Vinyl, which I don't. The deeper I go into it, I've been doing picking the top 20 albums of each year since 1972, and I'm up to 1985, and I'm kind of documenting what I was doing, where I went, what bands I saw, some personal stuff as well. I'm kind of, part of me is capturing it with a view to trying to capture some memories before I forget everything. And I also, but it's also worth saying is that my channel is never been exclusively music, because I didn't want to limit it to that. I wanted it to be more of a, sharing good ideas and sharing brilliant music, but also a kind of a bit of an ongoing kind of journal type thing, but in video. So that's. I hope that doesn't sound too self-indulgent.
No.
People are free to pass over these videos as much as they like. And I know I do videos on cycling and things like that, and it's not everyone's cup of tea. That's completely fine. If you're into music but not cycling, just ignore it. That's my policy. But it all adds to the kind of the variety on the channel, which is what I like.
Cool.
And Chris, what about you? Will you continue to take us on a walkabout through Wales? Because I'm loving it. It's awesome. It's great. Just more places I got to put on the list of I need to go to.
Yes, I've got an interview to do on Tuesday or Wednesday with a guy who's in his 90s, who's at a record shop in an indoor market for the last 60 years.
Nice.
So I'm going to do an interview with him. I've been traveling, like crazy at the moment, and I've never uploaded so many videos in like 2 weeks. But
it's good though.
The variety's good.
I'd rather upload it when I've done it, because the experience is still fresh in my mind, especially with the comments, rather than waiting and then waiting another week. I'm like, this is what's happened today. Go for it. Any questions you want, ask me now, because in 2 days' time, I'm going to forget what the fuck I've done.
Yeah.
So,
good plan.
you know me, Joe. I'm like, the memory's not good. So, yeah, my series is going to continue. And then in 2 weeks' time, I'm going to go to Cardiff and Spillers and hopefully interview the manager. Well, anybody doesn't know who Spillers are. They're the oldest record store in the world.
Oh, right.
Awesome.
In Cardiff. So I'm hoping to interview them.
I hope you're not going to be talking to some spotty teenager who's currently running the place.
I'm hoping to speak to the manager, David.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
So we'll see. I'm enjoying this at the moment, traveling a lot and showing people kind of, like, I think this week I did St. David's, took you through the cathedral and kind of the backstory of the town itself, and this is what to expect. And just like, if people like travel through Wales at all, like probably not Canada, America, but if people come over here and go, what record shop should I go to? I don't know. Just click on Chris's channel and he's in Wales, and we'll just go from there. So that's the plan going forward. And interviewing, not so much going, this is what I've got, more of, there's a record shop. If you're nearby, go and check it out, kind of thing. So that's my plan going forward. I'd like to thank everybody in the live chat tonight. I've really appreciated it. You know, my guest, David, thank you, sir. Always appreciate you coming on. It's amazing.
You're very welcome. I enjoyed the chat.
Joe, you know, I love you to death. You're amazing, mate. I will put all the channels below in the description. Go and check them out. Go and subscribe. What are you doing if you're not subscribing to these channels? Seriously. I watch them like it's my Bible. But thank you for everybody. Everybody's going to watch this later on. I really, really appreciate it. Honestly. It's been amazing chat. Conversation tonight has been absolutely tremendous, guys. I've loved every moment of it. Like I said, go and subscribe to them. They're amazing channels. So from me and everybody on the panel tonight, the chat has been amazing. I really appreciate it. So for me, Joe and David, good night. And we'll see you in the next one.